Chapter 2. The Sword of the Lord. Every so often the children of God must use the Lord's host to defeat their enemies. But how does one characterize the Lord's host? What is it that is so special about them that gives the Israelites the winning advantage in all of their battles? There is always something incredibly diverse about this army, giving them prominence in battle, usually involving tactical know-how and technical supremacy. In many cases, this will involve very important characters who have that little something extra they can offer over their contemporaries, and their combined intuition and bravery on the battlefield is what defeats God's enemies and writes their names in history. Let us move on now from the book of Joshua to the next book in the Bible, the book of Judges, where the Lord unites with Gideon. Man of the hour. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew with the horn, and Abiezer came to help after him. Judges 6:34, Greek Septuagint. Here is the perfect example of how comparing different Bible translations can make a huge difference. The end of the above verse is difficult to understand in both the King James Version and the Tanakh, but not in the Septuagint. Gideon has called for reinforcements. Before the invention of radio, armies would often blow on a horn to communicate across a battlefield and rally the troops, which is how they are used in this testament also. When both are blown in long blasts, the whole community shall assemble before you at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and if only one is blown, the chieftains, heads of Israel's contingents, shall assemble before you. But when you sound short blasts, the divisions encamped on the east shall move forward. And when you sound short blasts a second time, those encamped on the south shall move forward. Thus short blasts shall be blown for setting them in motion, while to convoke the congregation you shall blow long blasts, not short ones. The trumpet shall be blown by Aaron's sons, the priests. They shall be for you an institution for all time throughout the ages. When you are at war in your land against an aggressor who attacks you, you shall sound short blasts on the trumpets, that you may be remembered before the Lord your God and be delivered from your enemies. And on your joyous occasions, your fixed festivals and new moon days, you shall sound the trumpets over your burnt offerings and your sacrifices of well-being. They shall be a reminder of you before God. I, the Lord, am your God. Numbers 10:3-10. With the helping hand of God, who chose to use the unconfident and anxious Gideon, Gideon manages to find another very interesting and effective use for the famous Ramses horns. Gideon is a new captain of the Lord's host, and the Lord tells him in a dream to do something very out of the ordinary. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put into the hands of all of them horns and empty pitchers with torches within the pitchers. Judges 7:16. And I will sound with the horn, and all ye with me shall sound with the horn, round about the whole camp, and ye shall say, For the LORD and Gedeon. Judges 7:18, Greek Septuagint. The Hebrew translation of the word trumpet, KJV, is ram's horn, which were also used at Jericho. A very peculiar description of horns of iron that gore the enemy, 2 Chronicles 18:10, have no doubt caused much controversy over the years. Nevertheless, when Gideon's 300 men blew on the horns, they made a loud noise, an alarm of war that, as legend would have it, previously brought the fabled walls of Jericho miraculously crashing to the ground. The enemy immediately knew who they were dealing with once they heard these trumpets echoing all around them, and were stricken with absolute fear following Gideon's announcement of the sword of the Lord coming to strike them all down. God chose Gideon specifically and appeared to him as an angel prior to the battle taking place. Gideon, being dubious and having only just met this self-proclaimed angel of the Lord, asked the angel to give him a sign that the Lord will be with him and his men in battle. Acquiescing with Gideon for his understandable doubt, the angel performs a miracle by causing a stone to be set on fire. The angel then disappears and reassures Gideon that he will not die, for the Lord is with him. The Lord then commands Gideon to destroy his father's altar to Baal in the city and replace it with an altar to him. And although the entire city is wroth with Gideon, he does not die, as the angel promised. Gideon then gathers his troops with the horn and then tests God one last time to confirm that it is indeed he who is to save Israel from their enemies. Again, God performs a miracle, and Gideon is convinced. All Gideon needs now he has received enough confirmation is faith that he will achieve everything that God has promised. Every time the Lord unites with men to help them in battle, he brings them knowledge. He chooses his men very wisely. Gideon was a strong man. God can use men like this to do extraordinary things, and he often uses them because they have the strength and endurance to go the distance and fight for his cause. God always chooses the strong and able-bodied, the mighty in strength, Judges 6:12. He also chooses the risk-takers, those most faithful. He chooses the most cunning captain, the mastermind, the extraordinaire, and in this case it was Gideon, for his ingenuity of using ram's horns to frighten the Midianites and turn them against one another and flee. But the Bible also says he uses fools and the weak, 1 Corinthians 1:27, and, most of all, the righteous. And although David was only a shepherd boy, God moulded him into one of the greatest kings of all time and protected him from danger wherever he went. 1 Chronicles 18:6. A helping hand. God will often fight our battles for us. His only requirements are that we show up, follow orders, and have faith. That is all. That is all that is ever required, because once we do, the rest is in God's very capable hands, and he will help us with those impossible challenges. There are several examples in the Old Testament where the Lord will fight our battles for us, like the miraculous parting of the waters by Moses to rescue the Israelites from the wrath of the Pharaoh who was pursuing them out of Egypt. And the waters returned, and covered the chariots and the horsemen, even all the host of Pharaoh that went in after them into the sea. There remained not so much as one of them. Exodus 14:28. Or with hailstones falling from the heavens, to smite more of our enemies than we could with a sword. And it came to pass, as they fled from before Israel, while they were at the descent of Beth Horon, that the Lord cast down great stones from heaven upon them unto Azekah, and they died. They were more who died with the hailstones than they whom the children of Israel slew with the sword. Joshua 10:11. Giants are no match for the faithful children of God. Whither are we going up? Our brethren have made our heart to melt, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and fortified up to heaven, and moreover we have seen the sons of the Anakim there. Then I said unto you, dread not, neither be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who goeth before you, he shall fight for you in Egypt, before your eyes. Deuteronomy 1:29-30. And in some cases, especially during Joshua's campaign, he will literally fight for us. He will make a physical presence, vanquish all our enemies despite the overwhelming odds, achieve the impossible with his brilliance and unmatched faith, and lead us all to victory.